Travel isn't just about destinations, it's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebogile Mabocha, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place. Whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
We are not, though, spending our time today in the skies. We are spending it on the ocean. Remember a year or so ago, we all followed with such great excitement Kirsten Neuschaffer's Golden Globe round the world sailing race. And we all celebrated when she crossed the line as the first ever woman to win that prestigious race. Well, this time around, we're asking for your support for another South African who is taking on an equally daunting sailing challenge, only this time in a much smaller boat. His name is Greg Weir. As we speak, he is somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean on board his vessel Hummingbird. Having left Cornwall in the UK back in July, Greg is hoping to break the world record for the smallest vessel ever to solo sail around the globe, nonstop and unassisted. I'm hoping the satellite phone connection or Zoom connection are going to hold up to allow us to complete this conversation. Greg, good afternoon to you and welcome to CapeTalk.
Good afternoon. Hi. Can you hear me all right?
Loud and clear. Fantastic. And long may that last. Greg, where are you as we speak to you this afternoon?
I am approximately 250 nautical miles away from Cape of Good Hope.
Okay, so you are back towards home waters. West of, okay. So you left Cornwall in July, which means you've had a good 3 months at sea already. Greg, do you want to walk us through, firstly, the route that you're going to be following before we talk about what it's been like so far?
So obviously, not obvious, but from Cornwall down south, and I've had to go west to get around the southeast trade winds that I'm sure most South Africans are well aware of. Mm-hmm. But I had to go around that, so I was close to Brazil, and then down into the South Atlantic where I am now, past the Cape of Good Hope, along the Indian Ocean, south of Australia, south of the Cape Horn, so south of South America, and then back north up to Cornwall through the South Atlantic and North Atlantic.
And that is absolutely unassisted and non-stop. So no pulling into port for a couple of days in R&R to refuel, to have a hot shower, to talk to other human beings. Greg, just you and the Hummingbird all the way back to Cornwall. Roughly how long do you think it's going to take you in total?
I was hoping for 11 months, and I planned for a year. At this stage, I'd imagine it's going to be between 11 and 12 months.
Okay. Now, 3 months under your belt already, Greg. Have things gone according to plan so far? Have you had any unexpected hiccups en route?
Most of it's gone according to plan. I mean, the boat as a whole is in one piece, and I am in one piece as a whole.
Good start.
Which is always promising. There has been one or two smaller hiccups. I've had a lot more low pressures than I anticipated, having had left a little earlier than the Golden Globe due to my lack of speed from the size. But with that came a lot more lows because it was the end of winter. So I got knocked pretty hard by one low pressure, which has broken one of my wind pilots. So in terms of ocean racing, one is allowed to anchor for repairs. So there is a chance I may anchor off the Cape somewhere. As long as there is no landing.
So so how does that work? You anchor. Are you allowed to come to shore to get the repair done, or does somebody have to come out to you to basically carry out the repair where you lie at anchor? How does that work?
It has to be. I mean, in the statement of solo unassisted, it's all me. All the repairs are me. No one is allowed to touch me or the vessel.
Sure.
In any way, form, or hand anything over, or be handed anything. So it'll be me just finding a little more shelter and repairing essentially a trim tab, which is a additional piece off of the rudder. So fortunately, it's the top end of it, so I'll basically change the stability of the vessel and raise the back end of the boat a little bit if possible.
Okay. I mean, that sounds absolutely hectic, Greg, to have it all resting on just your shoulders to that extent that you can't even accept somebody handing a wrench over the side of the boat to you. How heavily does that weigh on you as you undertake a voyage of this length and scale? I mean, that everything is all on you. How do you sleep at night knowing that?
Yeah, it is a lot. There are definitely nights where there is less sleep because it's predominantly from storms and prep, and then it's often the night before that's the least sleep. As far as knowing no one else is allowed to help, I'm hoping the planning's covered that end.
Yeah.
There are a lot of spares on board, although I have lost spares on spares. So it does get a little stressful. And I think it's the lack of human contact. I mean, I'm allowed to talk to people from afar, but there's no physical contact. And I mean, humans, I think, naturally just like a good hug, and that I think that part will eventually catch up.
I mean, you knew that was what lay ahead of you when you undertook this journey, but still to live through it is a quite different thing. Greg, what was the inspiration to attempt this world record? What set this process in motion?
I think timing predominantly, and just how everything unfolded. So in 2021, I bought this vessel in Port Alfred.
Yeah.
It was lying on the grass off of the marina, and what was going to be a trip. Well, what happened was I ended up. My wife is in the Netherlands, so I ended up deciding, okay, I'm going to sail this vessel to the Netherlands as 20 foot, and I guess I grew with the vessel, and the vessel grew with me, and over time I've indirectly and unconsciously been preparing for the trip, and it's just been one long build up of timing, and I've just happened to get it right.
20 foot, so a vessel just over 6 meters in length. And when you consider that you alone are spending a full year probably on board that ship without getting off at any point, just how small does she start to feel? Greg, tell us a little bit about the Hummingbird and what life on board is like.
The fortunate part is I can stand inside. So she's for where she lacks speed, she's got tubbiness. So that I think would have got to me if I couldn't stand. So that was a good start. But as far as the vessel's concerned, as soon as I show anyone, they're like, "Oh, that's tiny."
Yeah.
Her length. I mean, it's the good part is if there is any issue, I can get to it really fast without even running. So, which one shouldn't really do on a vessel, but. Yeah, so, and then beam-wise, she's quite beamy. So, like width-wise, she's 2.4 meters. So, I mean, it is a tight space. I think that the biggest part is trying to keep everything organized because there's very limited space to put anything and everything. And there are moments, especially in storms, where things get pulled out and things get wet, so a lot ends up on the floor just because I can't afford to have everything else getting wet, and that's where it gets difficult because you're in this large weather and you can barely move around in your own space. So that's where it's tricky. Yeah.
I just want to say for anybody who's joined us midway, we are in conversation with Greg Weir, South African sailor who is busy with a world record attempt circumnavigation effort. He left Cornwall in July on board his boat Hummingbird, 6.1 meters long, 2.4 meters in width, and he is attempting to set a new record for the smallest vessel ever to undertake a nonstop, unassisted round the world circumnavigation. It's about pulling it off in the smaller boat, not necessarily about the time you need to do it in. I know, Greg, but what's the competition marker? Do you simply have to finish to set the world record? Is there more to it than that?
Well, to hold the record, it would have to remain nonstop, solo and unassisted. So obviously not receiving any assistance and not landing the vessel or myself. So those criteria have to be met. And then on the speed front, no, that is not a criteria. There's a not a council, but a group, World Sailing Records, Speed Records, and I've approached them and they didn't quite recognize it because of the lack of speed, I guess.
Okay.
But I'd imagine post having done it, because I know they were involved with the first guy that did it, who did it on a 6.5 meter. They may then turn around and say, okay, we acknowledge this now. I assume they probably wouldn't be promoting people going in tiny vessels.
Yeah.
So they probably only take it as a record after. I'm just going off a whim here.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be with them, and then there is an application with Guinness World Records.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It's quite intricate. They need a lot of they're meant to have footage every hour or whatever it is, which is impossible on a boat because you can't maintain battery.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just the nonstop unassisted that will really make it the record.
Be the defining thing. Greg, one of our listeners, George, asking how are supplies replenished? From what you're describing to us, you must have had to take everything with you when you left Cornwall that you need for a year. Do you supplement your supplies by fishing or anything like that?
So that is the biggest issue, is keep maintaining that. Water being a priority, people forget that's the most important. As much as I'm surrounded by it, it's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Because it's not fresh. So I do have a really tiny desalinator, which again I have to focus on balancing battery to make sure I can run it from time to time. I catch rainwater too off of the sails, and then. And in terms of food stores, all of my food is on board. I am not allowed taking on any food from anyone or anything. I do fish, but not very often. And I won't be fishing in the Southern Ocean, I don't think, because you predominantly catch birds, which is meant to be bad luck by seafaring law.
Yeah.
So I probably won't be fishing there, but especially coming back into Atlantic, I've had a lot of tins rust all the way through.
Oof.
So I've lost a lot of provisions. So coming back into the Atlantic after being in the Pacific, I'm sure I'll have fishing lines out everywhere. Yeah.
Is that, would you say, your biggest worry, running out of water or food? Or is the management of stormy weather the risk of maybe going overboard when you are all on your own? What would you say is your biggest fear through this journey?
The biggest risk is something I try not fear, because if I feared it all the time, I'd run into a dilemma being out here. But the biggest risk is always going overboard. And I'm not so big and hot on the PPE normally, because with the tether I end up, which is attaching yourself to the vessel, it often, especially with the space, ends up getting in the way and causes more of a hazard than not. So I'm just very careful, and I've basically caged myself into the boat. So I've created really high guardrails, and I've put in line to prevent me, if I should fall down on the deck, I've created extra lines to prevent me falling through the guardrails. So I basically created a net around myself. So that is the largest risk. And then the next biggest is being dismasted, which is a big sailor's nightmare. Yeah. So I've got to be really wary of not overdoing, putting too much pressure on the rig. as well as in storms, making sure that everything's secure. And
Okay. Interesting question from our listener, Keith, on the WhatsApp line, wondering how do you manage waste management when you can't hand anything over or take anything new on board? Does everything go overboard? How do you deal with that issue?
Using your normal like toilet facilities ahead in terms of ships, that's straight overboard. There are regulations around all of that. I follow so there's a thing called MARPOL, which governs pollution at sea.
Okay.
So as far as that stands, even though I'm a tiny boat, I follow all of that. All my garbage stays on board. The only thing I toss over is the tins, which have essentially rusted through anyway. So by the time they're going overboard, there's half a tin. So that's the only thing that goes over. The rest, the plastics, and I try catch any loose pieces too. So it's basically and nothing goes overboard except for my own human waste and the tins.
Okay. Before we run out of time, I've got several people asking the same question. Greg, how do we follow your journey and keep tabs on where you are in the world and what progress you're making? What's the best way to do that?
So there is an Instagram account which has my wife's link to it, and she has personal tracking just for personal reasons, keeping it a little more private.
Okay.
So on the Instagram, it's Gregor_the_sailor. And then that gives live updates. So every 2 or 3 days, she'll post a position. So that's one form. And then I do have AIS, which sends out a signal, but it's normally only giving a signal out when I'm near terrestrial bodies. So when I'm closer to land, it'll give out my position, and or if there's a ship that sends out the position, which doesn't happen that regularly. Recently, it's given a position off of South Africa, so that's on marine traffic or vessel finder. But I found that only marine traffic's really working at the moment.
Okay, well, wherever that beacon follows you, we wish you smooth sailing and an intact mast and no scary weather. I know that's probably too much to ask for in a full year, but Greg, the bottom line is we wish you well on this journey, and it's been really lovely to be able to connect with you now that you are within spitting distance of Cape Town. Thank you for making the effort to do so, and all the best for the onward journey.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the time and questions.
It's been our great pleasure. Greg, lovely to have you with us. On board Hummingbird, somewhere off approaching the Cape coastlines, talking to us there from his boat. Greg Ware is the name of the sailor. And if you'd like to follow that Instagram link, it's Gregor_the_sailor if you'd like to keep tabs.
Travel isn't just about destinations. It's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebogile Mabotja, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place, whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.